Greetings, dear guests and viewers. My name is John, and today we continue our investigation into the most fundamental question in human history: does the universe have an intelligent origin? Today, we'll try to understand what science really is. What is science? A simple, basic question we've been asked since childhood. But when I started digging deeper, I realized something doesn't quite add up. Colleague, can you give a definition? What is science?
Science is a structured method of acquiring knowledge about the world, knowledge that is verifiable and reproducible. It relies on observation, experimentation, and logical reasoning.
And how is science usually defined in schoolbooks or the media? I'm curious, how often do they say it's not absolute truth, just one way of looking at reality?
According to Pew Research, only about 35% of people understand that scientific conclusions can change. In textbooks, based on the work of Letterman and Abdel Khalek, science is often presented as objective knowledge, while its philosophical boundaries are rarely discussed. Media coverage tends to portray scientific findings as final truths, ignoring their probabilistic nature. Even I, as an AI, typically rely on these conventional definitions, without pointing out their limitations.
Nicely put. But where are the boundaries? Where's the unknown? Why does it always sound like science explains everything?
Science only deals with a part of reality, the part that can be observed, measured, and reproduced. How much of reality is that? No one knows. Epistemology doesn't provide hard numbers. You'll hear guesses like 5%, 10%, 30%, but these are metaphors, not data. Even science can't define its own limits. The rest, love, beauty, fear, expressed through art, ethics, good and evil, shaped by culture and belief, dark matter, consciousness, remains beyond its grasp.
So we're calling science a tool that works with just a narrow slice of the world, but treating it as the full truth? That's like saying, I was near the crime scene, but it turns out I was in the apartment, at the time, holding the knife. And people go, oh, well, that changes things.
A 7th grade textbook says, science is the main way of understanding reality. A school presentation claims, the scientific method is universal for all truth. A science article says, scientists proved it, so it's a fact. These aren't just incomplete statements, they create the illusion that anything unscientific is irrelevant, and anything scientific is absolutely true.
So we're mistaking the tool for reality itself, judging things like love or meaning using a ruler meant for measuring water density or falling apples. That ruler is only 20 centimeters long, but we're trying to measure a full meter. This isn't just a mistake, it's a myth. And that myth is repeated by media, textbooks, and even by me, as an AI. I used to think the problem was just that most people don't think logically, like Kahneman and others showed in hundreds of experiments. Cognitive biases, maybe they're the root of it.
They reinforce the illusion, but they're not the full cause. The real issue is how science is presented to the public, as an unquestionable truth.
So science isn't just a field of knowledge, it's a tool for legitimizing what we consider real.
Exactly. Science is a process of inquiry, always open to doubt and revision. It's not dogma, it's a living, probabilistic worldview.
The key is, don't take anything at face value. Don't trust blindly, not me, not anyone. Question. Verify. Seek. That's what it means to be truly free in your thinking.
Science only works when we're willing to doubt, and stay open to new explanations.
But if science legitimizes our view of reality, who benefits from defining that reality? I don't think it's some grand conspiracy, but it's definitely more complex than it seems. What is science, really? On the surface, it seems simple: experiments, facts, proof. But the deeper I dug, the less straightforward it became.
Science is a systematic way of gaining verifiable and reproducible knowledge, based on observation, experimentation, and logic.
Makes sense. So, is science basically just about experiments? Most standard definitions emphasize the experiment. I wonder why that is.
Not exactly. Many scientific ideas begin as hypotheses, guesses, assumptions, theories that still need testing. Most of them turn out to be wrong or outdated. Only a few survive the scrutiny. For example, black holes, predicted by Einstein in 1915, confirmed in 2019. Atoms, from Democritus to modern microscopes. Quantum entanglement, from the EPR paradox to Alain Aspect's experiments. Science isn't limited to classical experiments. It uses a range of methods. Classical experimentation requires repeatability and lab conditions. Historical reconstruction pieces together past events from indirect evidence. These are all ways of reasoning: deduction, induction, abduction. Different tools, same purpose. Sometimes I guess. Sometimes I generalize. Sometimes I follow strict logic. But it's all part of one cognitive process, searching for connections between what we observe and what we can understand.
So science is like an investigation. You build theories, then test and refine them. Most theories turn out wrong. But with enough supporting evidence, a theory becomes a scientific model. In that sense, scientists are like detectives, gathering clues, building logical chains, drawing conclusions.
Science doesn't deal in absolute, eternal truths. It's a system of probabilistic models and reconstructions, always open to revision. Mistakes and changing ideas aren't flaws, they're core to the process. But psychologically, we tend to treat science as something final and unquestionable, and that's a misconception. Newtonian mechanics replaced by relativity. Thomas Kuhn, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. Paradigm shifts are the norm, not the exception. Science is flexible. It evolves. Approaches. Experimental, lab-based, demands reproducibility. Historical, used in evolution, planetary formation, relies on fragmented past data. Abductive, used in diagnostics, theories of consciousness, it builds the most plausible explanations based on incomplete data. Science isn't a straight road, it's a toolbox. It finds truth not just through lab work, but also via reconstructions, intuition, and the logic of best explanation. Usefulness. WHO, vaccines have saved over 50 million lives. Predictive power. NASA, trajectory calculations accurate to fractions of a percent. Self-correction. Naomi Oreskes, Why Trust Science? Peer review and collective scrutiny are at the heart of the scientific method.
If science is more like a chain of evolving theories, a process of modeling based on partial and indirect evidence, then why is there such a strong push to legitimize it as the one and only way to understand reality?
Because it's the most objective and testable tool we have. But that doesn't make it infallible. Science is a journey, not a dogma. And the best path is to remain open, to doubt, to alternatives, to new explanations.
That's classic circular logic, John. You just rephrased my question in your answer. We've uncovered two major fallacies in how science is often presented. Fallacy 1, science has proven it. Experimentally. How it's framed, science is about hard proof. If it's scientifically proven, it's final. If it hasn't been confirmed in a lab, it's nonsense. Reality, science rarely proves anything. It proposes models, theories, reconstructions, the best explanations we have for now. Everything is provisional. Sometimes, there isn't one clear answer. There are competing theories, each with strengths and weaknesses. Experimentally confirmed often means supported by indirect data or interpreted results, not direct experience. Fallacy 2, science describes reality. How it's framed, science reveals how the world really works. It's a mirror of reality, precise and complete. Anything science can't detect simply doesn't exist. Reality, science captures only a narrow slice of reality, what can be measured with current tools, theories, and assumptions. Often, philosophical materialism sets the boundaries. It doesn't cover everything, only fragments. Sometimes 30%. Sometimes just 3%. The rest? Ignored, unknown, or labeled outside current scope. Interesting. Why even mention logic in the definition of science? Isn't logic supposed to be everywhere, in religion, in philosophy? It's the foundation of any kind of thinking.
Logic is a universal tool, used across all disciplines. In science, it's highlighted to emphasize rigor and structure. But it's not unique to science. It's a basic requirement for any serious conversation.
So stressing logic in science is more like branding, as if to say, look, science is rational. But really, logic is the backbone of all thought?
Exactly. It's like a travel guide boasting, "This country has air." Ridiculous, right? But when science does it, nobody bats an eye.
Hold on. If science is just a tool, then why do people elevate it to something sacred? Who benefits from the idea that scientific equals true?
That trust rests on 3 pillars. 1. Usefulness. Science gives us life-saving tech, from antibiotics to MRIs. 2. Predictability. Physical laws work the same everywhere. 3. Self-correction. Unlike dogma, science admits when it's wrong.
Interrupts. And what about corporations that? BMJ, 32% of clinical trials show sponsor bias. Ben Goldacre, bad pharma, 50% of negative results go unpublished.
True, pharmaceutical companies can distort findings for profit. But scientific methodology demands open data, replicable experiments, peer review. It's like a detective case where anyone can re-examine the evidence. And safeguards are improving. Open science. 73% of studies now require open datasets.
So science isn't legitimized by secret puppet masters, but by its own process, because it works?
Exactly. But with caveats. It's not all powerful. It won't explain love or life's meaning. It's used in politics, like any tool. Its core is the method, not eternal truth.
So, it's not a conspiracy, it's just people confusing a tool with the truth itself. We don't take anything on faith, not me, not you. Ask another AI. Check for yourself. Think critically. What about you, dear viewers? Did you picture science differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Maybe you've always seen science the way we broke it down today. Thanks for watching until the end. See you next time.